The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
August Conservation Commission, August 9th. Welcome, everyone. I'm Trevor Matera, Vice Chair, standing in for Andrew Koff, the Chair of the Conservation Commission. And we'll do attendance starting from my right.
Nancy Belanger, I'm the Select Board Representative.
I am Connor Madison.
Nick Campion.
Kyle Welch.
And Kristen Murphy, Conservation Sustainability Planner for the town.
Great. And on the phone, Allison?
Allison Everhart.
Great, thank you. Allison, you can hear us all right?
I sure can.
Perfect. All right, well, we luckily have a very brief agenda this month, so we'll fly through, get done in record time, and put Andrew to shame when he gets back. First, I would like to ask if there are any public comment. See none, hear none. All right, we'll move right along to our first action item, review of the draft warranty deed for the conveyance of 6.31 plus or minus acres from Exeter Rose Farm LLC, and a possible vote on the recommendation to the Exeter Select Board on acquisition. Who do we have speaking to this?
Good evening. It's Chair Matera, members of the commission. I'm Kevin Baum. I'm an attorney at Hopeful Phoenix, Gormley and Roberts. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I think Allison Everhart is going to recuse from this. I'm going to be formal about that. From this particular matter. So not too much to discuss here on my end. We submitted a proposed warranty deed. It is in the form that was provided by the town. We have not really made any substantive changes. I had some discussion with Kristen, and ultimately we kept it the same, as I think she mentioned before the meeting started, in part to keep some consistency with the adjoining town, the Henderson-Swayze forest. So other than that, there is a change on the printed copy, a couple of minor changes. I'm not quite sure what happened. I think we sent a draft deed and then updated it when we had some updates to the plans. But there should not be any substantive differences between what you had before and what you have tonight. There was a typo in Conservation Commission, which is an issue, and we fixed it. And then we've added just the reference to the specific AOT permit, which was a blank, and then the deed information for title purposes. We've also included a Exhibit A, which I don't expect any of you would have read through the 2-page legal exhibit, but it describes the 6+ acres. Other than that, the only other item for discussion was there was some question about whether it was necessary to include the resource survey. I think our request, just because of the size of the parcel, is that we not provide one. It seems more than is necessary given this size. We'll certainly do it if the commission thinks it's needed, but I'd hope both for cost and for time, so we can keep this moving, that we could avoid it, and we certainly would be happy to provide an alternative consistent with what may be done in the past.
So that's the baseline documentation report. When we receive conservation land, it's really important for easements mostly. That becomes the record of what the existing conditions were when we accepted it. So if there's any dispute for who, have the conditions changed since we've accepted it and we go to enforce it, we have that baseline record showing, no, we have proof both parties signed off, this is what the condition was before we accepted the property. Given that, one, it's a very small parcel, and two, it will be fee owned by the town. We have many examples in town where we don't have such a baseline report. One of the benefits of having that is to also, for the commission and the town, to be able to track changes over time, not necessarily for enforcement issues, but say changes for, invasive plant, if a population is expanding or something. Those are things that I could easily document in map form so that we have that for the record after acceptance. But when we discussed accepting this property, when the board discussed accepting this property, requiring a baseline document report was one of the criteria. It did not get carried forward into the planning board conditions of approval, so we're fine either way. I think there's enough logic to avoid it, but if you feel strongly, I'm happy to support that as well.
And if I could just comment, I mean, there is a significant amount of background information included in the town's records for this property, just given the length of the review and the depth of the review for this particular project. So I don't know exactly what Kristen would typically need to see, but I would imagine much of that is in the town's records already. And we could certainly happy to provide, to the extent we can help with the mapping, I mean, certainly provide something along those lines as well. That data is all there for the surveyors already.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
It's Allison here. Yeah, just before we get any further into the conversation, just wanted to confirm what Attorney Baum said, that I am recusing myself, given he's my husband.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, it does seem like a very small parcel of land for it, and especially if we feel that there are resources that would let us create those conditions, should we ever need to actually go back and try to see if those conditions are altering in any way. I'm certainly not the one that would try to make more paperwork, but I would be certainly open to a differing opinion if there is any.
No, I agree with that as well.
Going down here, everyone feels good? I mean, the deed looks solid, so I think that's really what matters here. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion that we review the warranty deed and, subject to legal counsel review, recommend the select board accept the deed as presented.
I second it.
All right, have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.
Let me know.
Sure.
Thanks.
So the next steps from here would be, I'll take that document that we discussed with the minor changes made, send that to legal counsel for review, and then it would go from there, assuming legal counsel is okay with the document and feels it's adequate to meet the town's needs, then it would go on to the select board. And then the select board would need to vote to accept the deed. It would be recorded and then finalized.
Great, thank you.
We do have a condition in the condition of approval that prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any of the houses out there, the conservation boundary will be walked with the applicant so that we can confirm that the boundary markers are in place. So, but that doesn't have to happen before we sign the deed,
Okay, makes sense.
typically.
All right, moving right along to committee reports, starting with property management.
I actually don't have anything I guess I could talk a little bit about Rains Farm. I guess I should never say I don't have anything to report. So as you know, Rains Farm, we allowed early harvest. Last year it worked out really well because the grass grew quickly and bobblings re-nested and all was happy in the world. The farmer got what they wanted. We got some potential breeding success. And I say potential only because we didn't document the nest, we just saw nesting behavior. But because of the drought, and this is common throughout our region, because of the drought, fields are growing so slowly. And bobolink tend to nest in grass that's, I think it's like 12 to 15 or 18 inches tall. We're still not there. So this may be a situation where we don't have re-nesting. I have been out there a couple times. I have not seen activity. I've not heard bobolink. So, you know, I don't know what to say other than at some point we should, and this is not necessarily a decision for tonight, but we should reevaluate. Are we okay with this proposal of allowing an early cut and accept that it's good enough for the birds on years that it works, or do we really want to look at that a little bit more in depth and reconsider? So, and I would, you know, my preference would be to put that on as a specific agenda item, maybe have some conversations with the farmer as well, so he's aware that it is being reconsidered, and then we can make a decision, a more formal decision, but it's just kind of something to think about, you know, it's, because we don't really have a record of how quickly grass grew in that field in the past, it's hard to say how often this could happen.
Sorry, I think I just missed it. Do we know when we cut it?
I do have the date, but not off the top of my head. It was pretty early. I want to say like May 24th or May. It was before.
Oh, that is early.
Yeah.
But it was
very high.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was warranted.
It was up here because it was right before I had a site walk. Sorry, it may have been June, it was after June 3rd, because I had a site walk with somebody who was looking to bid on Rain's Barn, and I had to like tramp him through literally hay that was this high on me, so, yeah. I don't know, I could get those dates for when we have a more formal discussion. And I was tracking over the years. I think since we switched to the new farmer, I had been tracking cut dates. So I have that somewhere. Oh, go ahead.
I was just curious, did we have the second cut done in September last year? Yeah.
I'm really bad.
I'm just wondering if it's going to get as, you know, with the drought, given how severe it is out there, if it'll get to a point where there is even a second cut this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never experienced a time where we haven't had a second cut. There have been years where there have been 3 cuts. But since 2008, since I've been there's always been 2 cuts. The latest of which was when we had the disc golf event, and it was like late October, I think after October 22nd or something like that. It was very late, but it still happened.
Well, growing season in late August, early September.
Yeah.
You know,
So we're thinking of having a bit of an adaptive management discussion then. What time do you think we should probably bring that back up as an agenda item to talk about?
Yeah, I mean,
Fall?
I would rather talk about it at the next meeting or even before that, because I would assume that there's some planning that the farmer has to do in terms of, you know, I don't know, when he puts the coal ash down, or I don't know. I don't want to delay that decision in a way that burdens the farmer, especially if we go back to the other way of managing it, because I know it was a bit of a push and pull there, and so I'd rather give him as much opportunity to prepare for that as possible. But like I said, this is going on regionally. You know, they're talking about hay shortages this fall and needing to import hay from, you know, upstate New York and whatnot. So I think farmers are going to take a pretty significant hit this year.
I will note, we were out, my kids and I were out there 2 weekends ago, And on the backfield, there was a lot of monarchs flying around. So I sent you a couple pictures, but it was nice to see.
Already or tonight?
Just now.
Okay. I'm like,
It triggered my memory.
yeah, great.
But yeah, it was neat to see.
I did also find a couple stands of milkweed in the field, which I hadn't noticed before. So,
Well, maybe we'll get that on the agenda for next month then, unless we feel like should be something done earlier than that, and then I guess we'll figure that out in the meantime.
I mean, the only thing that I think would change having it next month, I don't think we need to decide sooner than next month. My thought was, do we want to delay it any further to gather more information? But one, I don't know what additional information we could gather, and two, I would hate to burden the farmer that way.
Yeah, I think I would rather have that discussion earlier rather than later. All right, so moving on, is there anything else for property management?
No.
Okay, moving on to trails. Looks like there is a donation.
There's actually a couple things under trails. There have, since I posted this, there's actually been 2 donations. Acidotic Racing, you remember they came in, they did their
Exeter Trail Run.
Exeter Trail Race, about Father's Day, right? And they donated a portion of their profits, so they donated $268, and that goes into the conservation fund. And then this morning I received a $50 donation from the Word Barn. If you remember, I think it was July 23rd or thereabouts, they had the Raptors of New Hampshire on the property, and so they donated a portion of their proceeds as well. So that was pretty exciting. And there's also, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to talk about the lumber donation? And
well, I'm not sure exactly which one that they were talking about for that, but I do know that there's a new bridge that was built by private wood donation. It's from the trestle lot. If you head north on Dean's Dream, there was a bridge that it had flat planks, but they were not really lining up anymore, and there were nails, and so somebody undertook that on their own to go in there, and that's now pressure treated and sturdy and repaired.
That's awesome.
Also, I'm not really privy to the information about the.
I know Dave, and I don't know if this is the same or this is in addition to that. Dave Short had said that Exeter Lumber had donated quite a bit of lumber. And Bob Glowacki reached out saying, hey, this could be a good story. So Dave and Bob are going to meet up next week because there's some sort of activity associated with using that lumber, I think, or maybe that's when we receive the wood, I'm not sure. So it sounds to me like it's in addition to the Dean's Dream bridge.
So then, because I know that in the fall there's plans to do the trail's called Accelerate, but it's where the Rose Farm kind of abuts that. It's just north of that for the most part. Okay. It's south of the gas line, and it's gotten really eroded in the last 5 years to the point where there's like tons of roots and everything. It's not nearly as enjoyable to ride as it used to be. And so I think the plan is to go in there and bridge much of the stuff that's not really rideable anymore. The soil has a really high clay content, and so like even weeks after a rain, it's still muddy in there. So
I think Accelerate's on private property, or are you thinking it's in the section that we just obtained?
What's that?
Do you think it's in the Rose Farm portion?
It crosses one of the Rose Farm lots in one spot, and that's about it.
Okay. But all of this does bring an important point up. So we're entering budget season, and we're entering budget season with a lot of money on the table, which is never how you want it to be. A huge part of that is because the amount of labor and donations that we've received this year, I think, I wish that we tracked it better. That's something that I need to get better at coordinating details on. But two, we need to think about what is our plan with the remaining money. Do we have additional needs out there? I mean, I know the kiosks could be re-roofed, and, there's some small things like that. But we really need to think about, are we asking for more money than we need if this continues, or what is our game plan here? And I don't know the answer, because part of me feels like there's such heavy use on the trails. Donations are unpredictable, so I would hate to find ourselves in a position where we need the materials and can't make the repairs. And so it's kind of like a catch-22. I love the partnerships that we've grown. That's not a complaint at all, but it makes it hard for me to know the best approach in terms of entering the budget cycle, so.
I think we can find some ways to utilize the money.
Good idea. Budget, she's right. They'll cut back. There'll be a recommendation when the discussion happens. And although in the past years, I think the budget recommendation committee has been very supportive of projects for Conservation Commission, it's a good idea to spend down those light items that still have funds.
I'd also like to just take a minute and, I guess, acknowledge and thank Exeter Lumber for their generous donation. I mean, that's a great example of a public-private partnership that, puts us in this difficult situation, but I think we'll be creative enough to find a way to utilize our resources to the best of our ability. But
while doling out thanks, we should also acknowledge, it would just be wood on the ground if we didn't have the volunteer support to actually make the repairs. So we're in great shape that way.
Absolutely.
It's a huge coordinated and organized network.
Mm-hmm. Kristen, can I ask a question? Yeah. Do you have a to-do list? An ongoing to-do list?
Of trail repairs?
Kiosks, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so that will, I figured you did. I just wanted to, since I won't.
What I don't have is the laborers to do. I mean, we have laborers for the town forest trails because we have a wonderful mountain biking network, but we have needs on other trails that we don't really have the bodies to make happen yet.
I know Greg at Parks and Rec would do a community day of cleaning up the parks and stuff. Have you tried that?
We've done a couple different things. I've never organized a construction-based trail day, but we have had trimming and cleanups. We have vegetation, people who would come by and, say, hey, my family wants to go out, what's a good section, could we, and we have done that in the past.
Yeah, I've seen those advertised, Swayze and things, yeah.
I am not skilled with the saw, so I'm not gonna, I can't lead that kind of thing. But we've also had help from larger groups like Timberland, the Comcast. They've come out and, it's like their community service day, and they've done work. The Academy students have helped on projects. But because it's not my skill set, I've kind of directed those activities away from construction.
Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also on the trails, we had the geocaching event, which was, I think, pretty successful. We got, I think, it was 15 people showed up, and most of them had never been into that part of Henderson Swayze Forest before. Some of them didn't even know it was there. And so we kind of went and we moved to the original Fort Rock, which is the massive, rock structure there. And we kind of had to pry the kids off of that rock because we were like, all right, after a half an hour, they just wanted to keep climbing up. And it was great because some of the kids were just up to the top immediately, and there were others that were maybe a little more cautious. And by the end, everybody was up on the top, and then we went to another one, and again, this one was a little harder to climb up on, but watching how some of the kids, had trouble and made it up, it was kind of great. And then we had 3 geocaches that were our goal. I'd found one of them. I'd looked for all 3 of them and hadn't been able to find 2 of them. And we were able to get all 3 of them some of those kids were like bloodhounds. They were like, they were little Tupperware things that were hidden underneath this crack and covered with leaves, and I don't know how they found it, but they did. And everybody had a great time, and it seemed like everybody was really excited to go out there and do it again on their own. So I don't know if that's something that we would want to pursue, but we could certainly direct traffic to different parts of the conservation land in our town if we were to place our own caches in different places. Or I think in general, any events we could put together that are going to kind of get people out there that maybe wouldn't go on their own. Like some people said, do you think it's safe out here? And I was like, well, I do, but it's what you're comfortable with. But just getting them out there to see it, they wouldn't have done it on their own. And so anyways, I've got some ideas, but maybe for another time, I guess, of some other stuff. And
Kudos to you, Kyle. That was great.
It was fun. It was just it was supposed to be an hour. It ended up being 2 hours, and it was great. They were super excited about it. I think the kids would have done another lap if it hadn't been for the parents.
It's awesome. I think any opportunity to get the public out there on these properties is fantastic. It's a great way to identify new places for people to spend time, maybe spread out the use to other less used properties. It's a great idea.
And that's one of the advantages of all these bridges that are going over the formerly super muddy areas, is just making it more accessible, where you can go out there and not, have to walk through ankle deep mud.
Yeah, and I think like you were mentioning, it's great that you could sort of target that area, and we could also spread it around to different areas too, depending on where we would hold another event like that. I think that's great.
I mean, the kids were like super excited about it. Like I was thinking like you could have a contest where who can find the most unique leaves in town, and if there was some way that they'd have to like identify it and submit a picture and just anything like that. Like the kids seem to get really excited about anything that's like get their name on a list, and
And we're kind of bleeding into the outreach events, but because it was mentioned in the trails, I did actually get over to the Raptors of New England presentation over Rains, and that was really cool too. They had some really cool birds there, and it was blazing hot. What a hot day to be out in the sun there. But it was really neat seeing some of the raptors they brought around.
Did you volunteer to?
No, they didn't let you touch any of them. I can't touch any of them, but they walked them around, and
cool.
It was neat. Yeah. So yeah, I think any time we can like partner with, Ben over at Word Barn or anything like that, I think it really does us a service.
Yeah, awesome.
I had mountain biking at night one time. I have a headlight on my helmet, and I had an owl just come in over my head, and you don't hear anything, and then just flew along in front of me down the trail, like lit up by 12. And I was just like, oh my God. This was amazing.
All right, moving right along. I could just chat all night, but yeah, go ahead.
Not to keep us on trails too much longer, but I can't resist a brainstorm. And so just a few ideas that popped into my head. If we are looking to find, I think, meaningful uses of the money, just a few things I thought of were, one, obviously, if we need like any signage or blazes, and then the other two require some labor. And this is just if we want to start a brainstorm list of how to use those funds. One thought was previous conversations we've had about connectivity of our trail network. And I don't know if that's, paying someone to really start evaluating and coming up with a draft plan, or revisiting old conversations about how to connect some of our trail network, particularly in through the southern parts of town, if I recall, back up to the town woods. And then lastly, the other thought I had is the Smith Page property, which seems to be maybe an underused trail resource that we have, and if there are things that we can do there. So I just wanted to get those into the record for people to start thinking about.
Yeah. So I will say, Dave Sharples has a contract with RPC to work on the bike pedestrian master plan, and I did join the first initial meeting on that for that very purpose, to talk about, how can we link? For me, the McDonald Conservation Area, that whole east-west trail network and the Morissette property, those are incredible, easy ways to get from one part of town to the other off roads. And so I think we'll have an opportunity to incorporate a lot of that, and then maybe once, or maybe at the same time, we could find a way to not just have it be commuting travel, but also recreation travel. So how do we extend some of those trails so that you can get a longer hike or ride or whatever it is, going from one section to another? I think that's a great idea. I will say for Smith Page, we have had some dramatic pushback from and concerns from the property owners on Drinkwater Road over parking and use of those trails. And so we commit, well, I guess, I don't know if it's committed, but I had said we would remove any advertising of the Phillips Exeter Academy trails from the town's website, and that the loop trail that we put in during COVID was always a part of the plan, so we kind of stand by that, but we wouldn't encourage parking on the pavement on Drinkwater Road. And so it's not been settled. There's still a lot of frustration and heat out there. I know you probably heard some of it at the select board meetings.
A few times.
And so I would be very uncomfortable to push forward anything on Smith Page. But
that's helpful context.
Yeah.
What about, you said your maps are out of date. Have you thought about getting those up to date with some of the funds, or?
Our maps are out of date. So our kiosks are about as
here. You have some that you could hand out, right?
Yeah, those are current.
Oh, I thought there was a meeting like 6 months ago where someone said that those weren't current. What maps aren't current?
So some kiosk maps are not current.
Okay.
We updated quite a bit of them, but there's been some tweaks in the trail that we haven't really captured. Mm-hmm. You won't be able to tell what those tweaks are on the brochures. It's more on a larger scale that it's obvious. That could be a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, Kristen, following up in that conversation, if I recall, if we're thinking of the same one, we were talking specifically too with respect to emergency management and the potential challenges of there being trails that are not documented or well documented for emergency managers. And so I wonder if there's a potential partnership there too to make sure that they have, whether the trails are intended to be there or desirable or not, it's important that they know what's there.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. We can talk more in depth about it. I've been working with Jason Fritz. He's very familiar with the trail network. He has the current listings, and now there was kind of a transition period where the Strava data or whatever it was, the new trails hadn't quite made it onto all of the mapping software that they use, but we did print out updated maps for the fire department, and so they have those, and then they have the access on their mobile devices. But I'm sure there's always more that we can do. Part of what you said was evaluating whether trails should or shouldn't be there. Personally, I think that's a whole other conversation that the commission has brought up in the past. Maybe that's something that we could do some evaluation. I would love to get some advice about some sort of rest rotation system. I know I feel like a broken record a little bit about this, but having a system where we are resting some of those rooted trails that are still being used, but kind of could use a little break for the duff to build up, and maybe open another one and get it into a system so you always have good quality trails to ride on. I think that would require a bit more money than we have in the budget, but it would be a great useful project. It would take a ton of outreach, but I think it would be a worthy endeavor.
think this is a good brainstorming session, although I think it definitely warrants a more in-depth discussion, probably when, we have sort of real numbers to be working with in front of all of us, so we can actually talk about scales of projects and start focusing and talking next steps as well. But I like the list that we've started here. And maybe this is something, I guess, when does this really kick in full force? Is this a September item?
Yeah, so the draft budget gets submitted at the end of the month,
Okay.
but I don't have the dates for budget.
End of this month?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But my correspondence to the, along with the request for next year's money, you also include late season expenses. So I have information about mowing and stuff like that. So when I go before the budget recommendations committee, if they have questions about why do you have so much money on the books, any of these could be, things that I could point to for sure. And another, not to get off topic, but another thing I would love to bring back is so we had a trail brochure that kind of the parts and pieces have sort of fallen apart. I think we could reevaluate how to do that, maybe using the geocaching approach, so it's not a sign that someone wants to steal and run away with, but I think that would be a great way to use some of that funds too.
Great.
So the all-day budget, where your budget will be discussed, is October 21st, Friday. The organizational meeting is tomorrow night, so we'll know who the chair of the General Government Subcommittee will be after that. And of course, so in case you guys don't know how the process works, they meet fairly early because they're all day, and they have 10 department heads to meet with to prepare their recommendations. So it comes up rather quickly.
Good to know. Thank you. All right, well.
So we have a full agenda for next month.
Yeah, we really do. I just squeeze that right in there. I think Drew's back.
One other point, I think, just to maybe tie everything together, but that donated new piece of recreation property that we were speaking in the beginning of the meeting, that is going to do a lot for connectivity, because currently there's really no way to get to Henderson Swayze from downtown without going either cutting through Brookside, which is not something that they're in favor of. They don't want people doing that. And so this is going to allow people to get from where the spring is, basically. You could get up to Route 87 in Newfields now using our trail system. So that's a kind of vital piece to the connectivity.
All right, okay. We're moving on for real this time. Off we go to outreach events. Did a little, yep.
I think we already kind of, I guess I jumped the gun on that.
It's okay. It's all right, Kyle. Got that piece. Anything else for outreach events besides the geocaching? I'm hearing no, so we'll move right along to approval of the minutes. So the June minutes were deferred.
I did get a comment from Bill on the June minutes that I'll just share, but it's at line 123, so if someone has one sooner than that, we can. Okay, so his comment right now, it says, Mr. Campbell noted he was having trouble, and the sentence ends there. And so I re-listened to the video, and it was voting on this application before knowing whether the owner would have access to the back lot, and he's referring to the Carlisle lot. So that's how I would propose to amend that. And I did share that with Bill, and he was okay with that.
Okay, sounds good. Were there any other edits to the June minutes that anyone caught? I was not at that meeting, so I will abstain from this.
Trevor, I also plan to abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Actually, let's see, who was there?
I think I was there.
Connor was there.
I think it looks good.
Drew, Dave, Connor,
Kyle.
Nancy, Kyle, and Bill.
Can we have 3 of us abstaining here, or do we all just have to vote on it anyway, even if? I mean, I listened to, I think I'll vote on it.
You listened to it.
I listened to it.
Yeah.
It looked good.
You referred to it.
All right. I will move that we,
Are we doing one at a time? Yeah, sorry.
yeah, for the June, I move that we approve the minutes with the edit as mentioned.
Second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And Allison still abstaining? Passes? All right, moving right along to last month's minutes. July minutes? I didn't notice anything. I went through these.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm abstaining from this one too.
Allison
I wasn't at that
abstains?
one either.
All right. Those minutes pass on through. Okay. Moving right along to our number 4 action item, correspondence. The DES Rocky Hill Brook Culvert.
I'm just providing that as for your information, really. You did receive the initial notice from DOT, and so it's kind of, this is their correspondence back. And I will say, I will add something that's not specifically listed on the agenda, but there was also, we received notice from Rockingham Planning Commission, who went through, and I don't have the bills that were passed, but there were recent bills that were adopted that basically refine the roles and responsibilities of the planning board and the zoning board. And one key thing that I think is relevant to the Conservation Commission is they now require the planning board to back their decision, whether it's supporting an application or denying an application, with findings of fact. And so, so you will see a change in your next meeting memo, so to kind of cue what those findings of fact will be. But it's something that we'll have to develop on the fly. And so in order for the Conservation Commission's recommendations to flow into the planning board easier, having you really justify or clarify, we feel it meets criteria, I don't know, off the top of my head, like A through G or something like that, but feel it doesn't, it's something that you already do, but kind of more formalizing that conversation. Right now, I think it sort of gets discussed in the meeting and then there's a vote, and so bringing all of that into the motion is going to be important moving forward. And so I'll do my best to, set the memos up appropriately, but it's going to take a lot of quick writing during the meeting to try to capture all of that. So we'll see how we do.
Okay. Great, thank you. Was there anything else under correspondence?
Sorry, I have a note here that I forgot about. Bill also brought up, I guess, the Rocky Hill Brook document spurred a thought in his mind, and he wanted us to, or you to think, or us to think about the mitigation list that we worked on a while ago. I think it would be a good thing to pick back up again, specifically coming up with smaller projects as well, not just the larger land acquisition projects, because we will see mitigation happening now anytime, if I have it right, a priority resource is impacted, and so there could be some smaller scale opportunities for local mitigation. And so I think it would be a great effort to collaborate with Public Works and come up with like a joint list of what those culvert replacements, that are needed and would benefit the resource. What would those be? And maybe have a list that we can then broach with DES.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great idea.
Yeah, priority stream crossings would be great. I'm trying to think of even like maybe kind of some other kind of restoration efforts. The salt marshes look pretty good, but maybe Allison can chime in. There's a couple of stands of Phragmites out there, right? But actually, we're having that meeting tomorrow. Oh, you're not going to be at that meeting tomorrow. Never mind. This is outside of town stuff anyway. I agree. I think that would be great to discuss that again, bring that back up, and maybe crystallize more of a priorities list, especially if we have projects of different scales that we could sort of put forward, because I know usually we're just thinking something very, very large, but if we have the opportunity to do smaller efforts and bring in some other partners, that would be great.
Yeah.
And if I recall, last time we did that in the format of a subcommittee, and if we pick that back up, I'm happy to participate.
Yeah, ditto.
Great.
All right. Other business.
I have one really fast thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind everyone, and especially listeners at home, that the DPW still has this really cool program where you can get a free rain barrel, and you bring in a bag of groceries to donate to St. Vincent de Paul, and they even have their current wish list on the website. And it's just such a cool program where they're repurposing these barrels for a good use, and your payment is also, helping others. And I know this came up maybe last year or the previous year with the rain barrel program, but I'm currently watering my garden with a drip system hooked up to my rain barrel that captured a ton of rain in that little bit of that last rainfall we got. And so with our water restrictions, my garden's still limping along because I'm using my rain barrel. So just wanted to plug the DPW program.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Anything else? Anyone got any other business they want to bring up? Going once, going twice? All right. Well, our next meeting, date scheduled is September 13th. Submission deadlines are September 2nd. Oh, let's see. Aha, yes.
There was other business, sorry.
We do this every year.
Yeah.
That's right. So September 13th is the primary. I think we always keep it, right?
We did last year. I think that may have been one of the first.
Oh, really?
First or second. Maybe the past 2 years. I can't remember.
I always seem to remember it falling on the same day, but.
Polls are open 7 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could easily vote before the meeting.
Does anyone feel strongly about moving it? I'm seeing some shaking.
So Kristen, would you, because I have to work all day at the polling place, so if you would be kind enough to do a memo
I'd be happy
for me
to.
again,
Yep.
that would be great. I can't be here.
Okay.
I don't vote anyway, so it really doesn't matter, but one of the jobs of a select board member is being at the polls all day.
Well, that sounds fun.
It is, actually. I enjoy it.
All right, so it sounds like we'll keep it on the 13th then.
Great.
And with that, I will entertain a motion to be done.
Is that your motion?
So moved.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thanks so much, all.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.